So the first referendum question is, and I don't want to read this to you word for word, but it makes sense that I should, so you know exactly what the scope of the project is. Again, it's for district-wide maintenance of $35 million. It is for the purpose of paying the costs of improvements to the elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school buildings and grounds, to upgrade and renovate major building systems, that's electrical and mechanical, upgrades to safety and security systems, being in compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act, upgrades and improvements at the intermediate and middle for sidewalks, drives, parking lots, upgrades and improvements to building exterior walls, roofing, flooring, lighting, doors, and windows, upgrading and remodeling high school classrooms and labs, and the equipment that's needed to complete said projects. So that is the scope of the first referendum question. An excellent question that's been asked of me many times is, why doesn't the district just take care of these maintenance needs through their budget? Well, the answer is the two questions for $43.5 million in needs through the budget. If we were to address these items through the budget by devoting $700,000 each and every year, it would take the district 62 years to address all of these needs. That's simply not realistic to think that we won't have other needs that will arise, because we certainly will. So we have to go outside of our budget to address these needs. Here is a really good example as to why. The items that you see on this list, which is 10 deep, are the items that are going to cost the most through this maintenance effort that we have in regards to a referendum. The first and third items that you see there, the electrical system and the switch gear, that's in essence the electrical system of the high school. That's going to cost us just $12 million alone. Don't forget, the high school was built in 1976 for $3.7 million. The electrical system alone will cost 3 times that. And further, we don't have a budget that can withstand taking $12 million just devoting it to the electrical system. But does it need to be addressed? It absolutely does. The roof is some $3 million. The exterior walls is between 2 and 3. The roof at the elementary is between 1 and 2. The flooring at the high school is $1 million, etc. We have to address, but unfortunately they are big price tags, and the price tags don't come down over time. They'll only go up. So now is the time. And through the budget, it simply is not realistic to do that. So what is the actual scope of the project? And I'm going to go through this building by building. At the elementary, it boils down to this. We're going to address the tuck pointing and exterior masonry. In essence, tuck pointing is fix the facial appearance of the elementary school, all of the gaps and holes and nicks and so forth that exist. The miscellaneous roof repairs and replacement. Add hot water piping to the classroom. And I would like to reiterate, I would like to state, when we add hot water piping to the classroom, we don't have hot water at the elementary school, and we have never had hot water at the elementary school. So based on where we live, that's probably something we should have. Building code impacts, we have to make ourselves ADA compliant, and none of our restrooms are. And lastly, building finishes and equipment. Replace the remainder of the flooring, the classroom casework repairs, meaning all the cabinetry is original to the building, and that's 1967, so it's over 50 years old. We need to repair it or to replace it. At the intermediate school, many have said, well, we shouldn't have to do anything at the intermediate school, it's new. The intermediate school was constructed in 2003. It is no longer new, it's 19 years old. There are issues, most of those issues are at the entryway. So we have tuck pointing that occurs at the exterior masonry up where you see Amery Intermediate School. If you're standing in front of the intermediate school, look up and you'll see some issues there with the block being chipped away. It's no longer looking the way it looked 19 years ago. Repair the synthetic stucco finishes, miscellaneous roof repairs, upgrade the building systems controls, replace light fixtures with energy-saving LED fixtures, and repair and improve parking lots and drive surfaces. And lastly, refinish the gym floor. Although those items would be addressed at the intermediate school. At the middle school was constructed in 1992, so it's 30 years old. We again have tuck pointing and exterior masonry issues. Heat pump replacement needs to occur. We have some 80 heat pumps. They're failing each and every day, and we need heat, in that we live in a place where heat is necessary. We have a cooling tower issue. We need to replace that. Lighting and ceiling replacement. Accessibility codes, once again, that's the ADA compliance issue. And lastly, replace lockers and refinish the gym floor. All of those items in total in the district sum up to approximately $10 million. Now, when we get to the high school, you're going to see 3/4 of the rest. When you're talking all of the improvements, about 3/4 of it exists at the high school. High school, again, constructed in 1976 with additions in 1992 and 1997. We have tuck pointing throughout the exterior masonry. That's all the way around the building. We need to replace the roof. The roof is original to the building. Exterior door replacement and security improvements. All of the doors from the exterior to the interior need to be replaced. Address noise issues. We have walls that do not fit structure, as in the walls end when you get to the ceiling tiles. Well, the walls need to go up further than that to make it more noise proof. We have lighting and ceiling replacement that needs to occur. Your electrical systems, again, that's that big ticket item of well over 10 million. And mechanical systems right beside it, that also needs to be addressed. And then lastly, on this slide, we have repair and replace parking lots and sidewalks. The high school, since it has so many issues, has another slide altogether. We have building code issues. When you do a upgrade such as this, you have building code issues, and one of those items is to have a fire suppression system. That's required. Accessibility improvements, as in handicap accessible, that's required. Replace the emergency generator and transfer switches. That all is connected to the electrical system. And then the last category of stuff, replace and refinish the remainder of the flooring, install durable finishes, and lastly, painting throughout the building to give it generally a facelift. The total cost of high school maintenance items is approximately $26 million. So there's a lot of work to be done at the high school. So the diagram you see here is an excellent depiction of what needs to be addressed. There are really 5 main areas. The first, and this is not in any area of priority or importance, there's just 5 areas and 5 items that need to be taken care of. First, we need to renovate our science labs and greenhouse, and you'll see those noted as number 1 across the top of the screen where it says Science Suite. The science department has not been renovated or improved since the high school was originally constructed. The way we do science now in 2022 is not the way we did science in 1976. We've got issues in the science room with its usability for student and its ability and our ability as for instructors to provide the necessary education to prepare our kids to go off to college. Locker room mechanical system, there is no ventilation and plumbing system efficiency at all in our locker room. Not only does it look poor, but it also has a very low efficiency in regards to its ventilation, and that is not a very healthy setting right now, and further, it's not up to code. The third area is our ag lab and greenhouse. We have one of the finest ag programs in the state, and we have one of the probably most inefficient spaces for ag that exists in the state. We make the best out of very little, and we've done very well, but it's time for an upgrade. It's a nice space, but it's not very efficiently organized and not very useful for our kids. So it's not designed for the function that is ag in 2022. The fourth area is the woods and metal shop. Again, a very nice space. There are 6 separate parts to our tech ed area, but the problem is it's not organized in a way that's very useful for our kids. So we're looking at replacing and upgrading that facility, and the replacement is the ventilation and electrical systems. There are units in that area that are original to the building that no longer even function. So we would like to go ahead and do away with that which we're not using anymore and upgrade that which is there, and the electrical system is direly in need of that. And lastly, improve the cafeteria and locker commons area. There's no space in the high school that is seen and used more than that space. Anyone coming to the auditorium, anyone coming to the gymnasium, anyone coming to the office walks through that space. So we're looking at adding some group collaboration space in that area. And as part of that, removing some of the lockers. We have far more lockers than we have kids. There are approximately 750 lockers, and we have a little less than 500 kids. So we wouldn't deny anyone the use of a locker, and further, our kids aren't really using lockers these days. So we're going to reorganize that space to give it a facelift, if you will. The second referendum question targets the elementary. It's for elementary safety and security with an upgrade for additional early childhood for the purpose of paying the cost of the elementary school renovations and building additions, safety and security upgrades, upgrading and remodeling elementary classrooms, upgrading and improving sidewalks, drives, and parking lots, and then upgrading and renovating classrooms for early childhood learning. That's the clubhouse, and the equipment necessary to do said project. So what are the challenges that exist at the elementary school? There are really 4 big challenges, and they are related. First, the primary mechanical and electrical systems are out of date and no longer meeting the building needs. Again, it was built over 50 years ago. It served us well, but it's time for some help. Second, the safety and security challenges for the main entryway, the playground, and the traffic patterns. And I know that rings true for a lot of you. The traffic patterns are challenging at the elementary school because you have buses, you have parents dropping off kids, and you have staff looking to park vehicles to go into work. All of that makes for challenging times. The third challenge is all program areas are short of space for classrooms and support spaces. There is not a single classroom space open at the elementary school. Some have said, so is the elementary school enrollment rising so fast we can't keep up? No, that is not the case. But the way we do education now at the elementary school, with settings that are not just classroom for all kids, there's pull-out instruction where kids receive separate instruction from the rest. That's not what we did in 1967. It's what we do now. And if kids receive that type of instruction, right now it's done in the hallway because there's no other spot to do it. And then the last challenge is we have an early childhood program that's expanding and needs separation from the rest of the elementary school. Right now, it's a mixed population of kids from clubhouse and kids from the elementary and a mixed group of staff. That's not inherently the problem, but mixing those two settings together makes for safety and security issues because people don't know who's coming and going and who's supposed to be where. So we want to go ahead and address that issue. The depiction you see here helps you understand what that would look like. Please focus on the top right of the screen where you see the number 1 in a star. That is the back of the elementary school. Think of it as where the playground partly is now, between the elementary and the tree line by the football field. That would become a parking space. And the parking space would be for elementary school drop-off and pickup. That would then separate the traffic pattern that is drop-off for elementary school parents from bus traffic, and also separate it from the staff parking that would be along the front of the building. So the main entryway to the elementary and the clubhouse would then become the star that says number 1, and you see main entry right underneath that. It becomes secure. It also becomes separate. You would go into that door. You would then be buzzed into the clubhouse to the right, or you would go to the elementary school to the left. So that would address some of our issues in regards to safety and security and also traffic patterns. Please don't underestimate how incredibly useful it would be to separate some of those patterns out because it's very challenging in the morning and after school for everyone to get their kids and get home. The second item that you'll see on the list, the number 2, a mechanical and electrical room receiving upgrade. That's where our service dock is in essence. And it is out of service in so many ways because, again, it's over 50 years old. By this plan, we would add some early learning center classrooms. We would have more space for more kids for clubhouse, is what I mean. We would move from 5 classrooms to 6 classrooms. And the number 3 you see on the screen towards the top gives us the possibility of adding 4 to 6 more classrooms. So we could open up somewhere between 50 and 75 more spots for clubhouse kids, which would be good for our employers and good for our families that work at those businesses here in town. They could have their kids cared for here, and they could work here, and potentially they could live here, and then they could send their kids here when they got to school age. The fourth part of this plan would have music and art, which is where you see clubhouse being relocated to. Music and art is in that area, so they simply move into the elementary school. We have a classroom addition on the bottom right of the screen. You'll add about 1,000 square feet for renovation. And lastly, you have a classroom expansion on the far left, which adds a classroom for elementary school use. So all of that in total gives you a lot more square footage for education of kids, and in addition to that, creates a separate space for clubhouse and elementary school. And the big added benefit, I would contend, is trying to shore up some of the safety that surrounds our traffic patterns on school grounds as it relates to the elementary.